My name is Chase Sr. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now, and coming up, Philadelphia Eagles winners and losers following the 2025 NFL Draft. I do want to begin with this. The Eagles are on the quest to repeat as Super Bowl champions. So if you're excited for the Eagles 2025 season, it should be everybody who's watching this show. I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. Let's start off on a positive note. Glass half full, because I'm a positive type of guy. And let's begin with Eagles winners post-NFL draft. One of them has to be Howie Roseman. The Eagles entered the draft with 8 picks last week, and they came away with 10 draft selections. It's the third time since Howie Roseman has become general manager that the Eagles have walked away with double-digit picks. And he accomplished that knowing we don't have a lot of needs on this roster, but he compiled more picks, allowing him to take swings on players. The Eagles didn't have needs along the offensive line. He still added 3 more. That fortifies the depth. They lost a lot of players on the defensive side of the football. Howie helping to replace those players who exited. And so he added talented players at excellent value. And while adding to the 2025 team, Howie has positioned the Eagles very well for the 2026 draft as well. And we talked about this earlier this week, but look at how things are set up for the Birds next year's draft. They have their own first-round pick, their own second, their own third. They have 2 more thirds, one from the Jets, another projected compensatory pick after Milton Williams signed with the New England Patriots. They have their own 4th. They're going to get another compensatory pick most likely after Josh Sweat signed with the Arizona Cardinals. They have their own 5th, a 5th from the Texans, a 5th from the Falcons, projected to get a 5th after Mekhi Becton signed with the Chargers by way of the compensatory pick formula, and they have their own 7th. That's a lot of picks within the top 100 and in the first 4 rounds that the Eagles now have at their disposal for next year's draft. Now, they can use those picks to continue to add to their roster, or they can package those picks to move up the draft board, or they can use those picks to try to strong-arm a team in making a trade. And I like what the Eagles did with this 2025 class. Jahad Campbell was a top 15 player on my board. He was a top 10 player on the Eagles board. They tried to trade up to get him. Instead, all they had to do was move up 1 spot to 31 to get a consensus top 15 player in this draft. And I'm very fascinated by his versatility. Andrew Nakobe was a little bit of a reach according to some, but he is a C.J. Gardner-Johnson clone. After you traded away C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he's going to be cheaper, and you probably have to deal with less baggage and noise as compared to C.J. G.J. Ty Robinson, yeah, he might be 24, but for his rookie contract, that takes him until he's 28 years old. He's a player who's 6'5", nearly 290 pounds, and he ran a sub-4.9 40-yard dash. He can help you replace Milton Williams. Mac McWilliams was a top 150 player on Daniel Jeremiah's board. He has good instincts. He can run. Smile Mondone is a long athlete at that linebacker spot. At the very least, I think that he can help you on special teams. Drew Kendall is an all-ACC player who's been durable, more than 30 career starts, NFL bloodlines. His pops played in the NFL. Kyle McCord adds to the quarterback room. He was one of my favorite quarterbacks in this draft. Miles Hinton's brother and dad also played in the NFL. He's an offensive tackle from Michigan who Jeff Stoutland can work with. Cameron Williams, if he would have went back to Texas next year, he could have been a first-round pick. You get him in round 6. And no player in college football at the FBS level the last 2 years has had more sacks than Antoine Powell-Ryland. And you get him in round 6 as well. Howie Roseman, unquestionably, a winner after the NFL draft. Winner number 2, Eagles tight end Dallas Goedert. Couple of things happened and didn't happen. He did not get traded, and the Eagles did not draft a tight end. And so is there a possibility where a few weeks ago, as early as in the lead up to the draft, it looked inevitable? it looked as though the writing was on the wall that the Eagles are going to trade Goedert, who they drafted in the second round out of South Dakota State, all the way back in 2018 to then replace Zach Ertz. And is there a chance that he could come back? If that happens, I think it's the best case scenario for the Eagles. And if that happens, that means that 10 of 11 starters from a team that won the Super Bowl offensively last year will return in 2025. I know he's been injured a lot, but you look at this Eagles tight end depth chart, he just rounds out this room. He makes this room a lot more talented, and he's still one of the top all-around tight ends in the NFL. He can block in the pass and run game. He can pick up yards after the catch. He has good hands. He's awesome on those out routes. He's electric in the flat. He can run down the seam. You can use him in the red zone. And the Eagles have been able to get away with not having a fantastic situation at wide receiver 3, because outside of A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, you also have Dallas Goedert in the pass game. It is interesting what the Eagles have done. You know, they did add Harrison Bryant, Kylan Granson in free agency. I think Grant Calcaterra is certainly a viable tight end too, but there's a situation and a reality in which Goedert could return. You know, there's good and bad with him. He's one of the top tight ends in football, gifted pass catcher, lethal yak guy, very valuable blocker, great playoff performer. The bad, of course, misses a lot of time. 15 games missed the last 3 years. It's part of the reason why if he wants a contract extension and a lot of money, the Eagles aren't comfortable with that. So he's injured and about to be 30 years old, and his cap hit in 2025 is $11.8 million. But if he could just play out the remainder of his deal, or if the Eagles could restructure that deal while giving him an extension so that you know you're in a good spot for the foreseeable future and you have depth at that tight end spot, that could make sense for the Eagles as well. But the fact that he, 1, did not get traded. 2, the Eagles didn't draft the tight end. That improves his chances of coming back to Philadelphia. Some of you could say he's a loser because he didn't get a contract extension, and this might impact him getting that extension. But for the Eagles, having Dallas Goedert on your team makes you better. Vic Fangio is my third winner. Eagles defensive coordinator, the Dunmore native who grew up a diehard Philadelphia sports fan, who at one point coached the Philadelphia Stars. He goes to the Eagles as their DC, and in year 1 has the number 1 overall defense in the National Football League, and they absolutely slapped Patrick Mahomes upside the head and had a dominant performance throughout the playoffs in the Super Bowl, and now he has a Super Bowl ring coming to him, and he's had his hands all over that Lombardi trophy. Now, why specifically I think that Fangio is a winner, he was talking with John Clark at the start of the Philadelphia Phillies season on the field at Citizens Bank Park, and he said, look, we've lost a lot of players, but that gives me an opportunity to get into Howie Roseman's ear, and we have the draft coming up. Well, what happened in the draft? The Eagles added an influx of youth, as we just highlighted, because they went defensive heavy with this draft class, and they still have foundational pieces all over that side of the ball, and those players can continue to get better. Jordan Davis, 5th-year option exercise. Jalen Carter at defensive tackle. Ty Robinson, drafted. You have Nolan Smith. You have Jalix Hunt. You signed Zach Bond. You added Jahad Campbell. You added Smile Mondone. Your cornerback situation is in a good spot. Kelee Ringo, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. You have Reed Blankenship. You drafted Andrew Makuba. Sidney Brown, really good athlete. Vic Fangio still has a lot to work with. And speaking of Kelee Ringo, he is my winner number 4 here following the NFL draft. And why is that? Well, first of all, I think he has a lot of ability. I think that he can help replace Darius Slay. And I think that Kelee Ringo still has some great and his best football ahead of him. Isn't this nuts? Kelee Ringo, ladies and gentlemen, even though he's entering year 3, is 22 years old. He's going to be 23 on June 27th. For instance, Ty Robinson is 24. Tyler Shuck, who the Saints drafted at quarterback out of Louisville, as some of you would say, is about to be 26 in September. And so the Eagles did not draft an outside corner who is seriously going to threaten Kelee Ringo. The job is all his to be on the opposite side of Quinyon Mitchell as an outside corner. Mac McWilliams, I think he's more of a slot guy. He played mostly outside in college, but I think he's going to move to nickel at the NFL level. And I like him there because he has good quickness, excels in short area zone. He's a little bit undersized with poor length, inconsistent tackling results. And so I want to pop him to the inside. Andrew Nakobe is a player who's a safety, but he can help you in that nickel role. High football IQ, reacts quickly in coverage, has good feel for what's happening, was definitely comfortable playing deep. Run support could be a red flag at his size, but he's a willing tackler. And Kelee Ringo's a really good athlete. I mean, the size at the corner spot is intriguing and imposing. He is 6'1", 207. At least that's what he was in the pre-draft process a couple of years ago. And he ran a 4.36 40-yard dash. 31.25-inch arms. The ability is there, ladies and gentlemen. And then along the same lines, Tyler Steen is also a winner for me because the Eagles didn't draft a player who's seriously going to threaten him to be this team's starting right guard. And the Eagles partially let Mekhi Becton go because of a few reasons, right? They believe in Tyler Steen. They drafted him in the third round a couple of years ago. He was strictly a tackle at Vanderbilt and Alabama, and so clearly he's athletic enough to play guard at the NFL level. And the Eagles didn't draft a true right guard who you're like, okay, he can challenge Steen to be this team's starter. Now, something to keep in mind, if Steen does flop, Kenyon Green has been one of the worst guards in football, but he was a first-round pick by the Texans a few years ago, and you're hoping that Jeff Stoutland can get him on the right road. Drew Kendall only played center at Boston College, but you could maybe play him at right guard. The wild card, and I don't think this happens, I don't want this to happen, is if every other guard stinks, you move Cam Jurgens to right guard, then you put Drew Kendall at center, who had over 30 starts in his college career. I'd like to keep Jurgens at center. He's better there than he is at guard, and he's one of the top centers in football. That's why the Eagles paid him, but you do have some options there. The PFF numbers for Steen, not that pretty in 2024, but when he had to come in a pinch, I actually thought he played pretty good ball. Overall PFF grade 40.6, pass blocking grade 37.7, run blocking grade not that great. 122 snaps at left guard, 173 at right guard, but he did give up 0 sacks and 0 hits. And then a sneaky Eagles draft winner is a rookie in Ty Robinson. 6-year college player at Nebraska, 24 years old, but at 6'5", 290, running a sub-4.9 40-yard dash. He can help the Eagles replace Milton Williams. He can be firmly a part of this Eagles defensive tackle rotation. And if the brotherly shove tush push does get banned, look out for him to be a part of short yardage situations as a lead blocker or a guy who could get a carry from time to time. So what say you? Because he did that at Nebraska, by the way. Who is the Eagles' biggest winner after the NFL draft? We're about to shift gears to our losers, but let me know down in the comments section. Eagles jerseys available and on sale thanks to our friends at Fanatics. Get geared up now so that you can be ready for the 2025 season. And it's always great to rock an Eagles jersey during the offseason, during the summer. All types of jerseys available, by the way. Men's, women's, kids, home jerseys, away jerseys, Kelly Green. You can go with some throwback players, but this Eagles roster is so full of great players that I don't think that you can go wrong. My jersey advice, get an all-time player for a jersey so that you can have and wear that jersey forever. For instance, my favorite Eagles jersey, an authentic Brian Dawkins jersey that I got when I was 13, 14 years old, and I got it big so that I could wear it as an adult. I have a Jason Kelsey jersey. I've kept all my OG Eagles jerseys, and they're timeless. Chatsports.com/Eagles jersey. Get your jerseys today. Eagles losers here. Let's start off with safety Sidney Brown. Andrew Nakobe has an opportunity to start and take over that starting role next to Reed Blankenship. The Eagles are very high on Andrew Nakobe. And the Birds did trade away C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and there was some chatter after that trade that the Eagles made that move because they were very confident in Sidney Brown. They want to see what the former third-round pick out of Illinois can do. But they also then drafted Andrew Nakobe, who's a C.J. Gardner-Johnson clone. Ball skills, playing bigger than his size, playing physical, playing with confidence and swagger, playing with a lot of energy. Howie Roseman even said he plays an Eagle style of football. And so, to me, you always want to focus on a person's actions, not always their words, although words can be very important as well. That's in a relationship, that's in business, that's in football, right? So the Eagles have said, we like Sidney Brown, but then they drafted Andrew Nakobe at 64 overall. And so I think Nakobe and Sidney Brown are going to battle it out to be the free safety next to Reed Blankenship or strong safety, depending on how they want to utilize both those safeties. Nakobe and Blankenship are interesting because they're both ball hawks. As for Sidney Brown, I liked him in the pre-draft. I mean, he plays like his hair is on fire. He's very physical, gets downhill, and has no fear. The sub 4.5 40-yard dash, pretty damn good. Elite athlete. He's very explosive, 40.5 inches on the vertical, more than 10 feet on the broad. A little bit shorter at 5'9", 211. And sometimes in 50-50 situations, he can lose out because of that. But a 9.24 relative athletic score, at the very least, what do you have at that safety spot? Intriguing young players and really good depth. Another Eagles loser is, unfortunately, Nakobe Dean, who has become a fan favorite. Another Georgia Bulldog who was a highly decorated player in college, best off-ball linebacker in the country coming out. Then he fell all the way to the Eagles in the third round to start his career. Been a little bit choppy, inconsistent play, injuries, and then in 2024, he really put it together. And I thought Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean were one of the best linebacker duos in the NFL. The issue with Dean is that he's been undersized and injured a lot. What happened? He got injured in January with a pretty severe knee injury. And what did the Eagles do? Again, their actions in the NFL draft. They moved up one spot to take Jahad Campbell. They don't know when Dean is coming back. He's going into the final year of his rookie contract. And then they take Campbell, who I think can end up being one of the steals of this draft. He's coming off a breakout year where he emerged as Alabama's best defensive player. Good size, good athleticism. He can run well, not afraid to knock your head off, proven ability in run support. You can use him as an edge. You can blitz him in between the tackles, good in pass coverage. He, too, plays the game in a way that Philadelphians are absolutely going to love it. His instincts as a linebacker can still improve, but he was recruited out of high school to be an edge. But I think he's going to be like a Zach Bond type of player who he said he scouts to emulate his game after. And I think that Zach Bond's versatility as a guy who can blitz, as a guy who can line up at edge, given his background, as a guy who has great instincts and coverage skills, that's what the Eagles should want Jahad Campbell to be. And if he becomes that, Nakobe Dean might not be in the Eagles' future plans. My third Eagles loser is Kevin Patullo because of what the Eagles did in the NFL draft. And Patullo is, of course, Nick Sirianni's right-hand man. He's been with them for a long time at this point. They have familiarity going all the way back to the Indianapolis Colts. But I thought going into the draft, the Eagles could have used another wide receiver. They could have drafted another running back. Thought tight end could have been a big need, depending on the future of Dallas Goedert. The Eagles didn't take any players at that position. The only offensive player outside of an offensive lineman they took was Kyle McCord. And so there's not a lot of new juice on offense. A.J. Dillon is my fourth loser, and here's why. Because of the UDFA pickups for Philadelphia. And the Eagles only gave him a little more than $1 million in free agency. Coming off that neck injury with the low salary, he is not a lock to make the team. Shunderick Powell is a guy who is smaller, will remind some people of a Darren Sproles, Dion Lewis type of player, because he's shorter, but he's very explosive. He had 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons, and I think that he has some spunk to his game. Montrell Johnson, another UDFA pickup out of Florida, was injured a little bit last year, but before that, 3 straight seasons of 800-plus rushing yards playing in the SEC. He is an old-school, rugged, physical back who will leave skid marks on the backs of defenders. And what is A.J. Dillon? That type of physical back. So if Dillon can't stay healthy, or if the Eagles really like Powell or Johnson, I don't think that Dillon is a lock to make the team. And then my final loser is Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Coming out of UCLA, the Eagles liked him as a dual-threat quarterback. They brought him in on a top 30 visit. But then the Eagles drafted Kyle McCord in round 6. And I think the upside for McCord is so much greater than DTR, who when he's played with the Browns to start his career, he's been bad. And bad to a point where it's been a little bit disappointing. Keep in mind, bad situations for quarterbacks with a lack of stability oftentimes leads to bad results, but he also could just be the player who he's shown to be. Whereas Kyle McCord, he is a player who has caught my eye and is intriguing for a few reasons. Led the country in passing yards last year with nearly 4,800. Threw for 37 touchdowns. A little bit of a gunslinger, strong arm, can hang tough within the pocket, not going to make a lot of plays outside of the pocket, but has a good pocket feel, puts the ball in a position for his weapons to make plays, is a local cat from New Jersey, played at St. Joe's Prep in Philly, won a state championship, and McCord last year really unlocked his confidence. And you saw a player who played with confidence and swagger, who was beloved in that Syracuse locker room. Syracuse was bad 2 years ago, final season for Dino Babers. And then Fran Brown comes in. They go from like a 4-win team to a double-digit win team. Kyle McCord was credited for that. And Ohio State wanted to move on. They replaced McCord with Will Howard, another local guy who's from Downingtown. McCord goes to Syracuse and with lesser talent throws for almost 4,800 yards, 37 touchdowns. Had a really good year being added to this Eagles quarterback factory. And if the Eagles think, okay, this year we'll have Tanner McKee as QB2, but next year we can trade him away, Kyle McCord could be QB2 before it's all said and done, sooner rather than later. And this year, he could lead to DTR getting cut and him taking over as QB3. So who is the biggest loser post-draft? I asked you for your winner. Now I ask you for your loser. It's only fair. Comment down below. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe.